Welcome, everyone, to Unscripted Coding. Today, I have in front of me the home page right here of OpenAI. OpenAI is, of course, behind GPT-3, and I continue to struggle to say that, but it is an AI service in which you can use their API to access their artificial intelligence. They've really done a great job of natural language processing, and in the past, we've played around with their playground to try out very random sort of questions and prompts. Today, we want to try out the question answering. So while GPT-3 has been really good at completing text, modifying text, it hasn't been great for question and answering. So let's go back and take a look at what's traditionally done. We have grammar correction, changing from text to emojis, finding keywords. You have a text in front of you, and GPT-3 modifies that text in some way. What we're trying to do instead is to get questions and answers out of a piece of text. While the old API was, to a certain degree, able to do that if you write the prompt correctly, GPT-3 was trained over millions, if not billions, of documents from the internet. So while I might ask, what is the War of 1812? It might look at what your prompt is, it might look at what you've supplied, but it might draw on its understanding and its knowledge from prowling through the internet. Instead, question answering, this feature, is looking at just a subset of documents. Yes, it has all of that natural language processing ability built on all of the content on the web, but what it's doing is it's actually looking for the answers within the documents that you provided. In this case, there is no easy playground to use, and instead we're going to be actually using the code, using OpenAI in Python to supply files, to supply the text to ask questions. What we're going to do is probably just pull a bunch of text from Wikipedia, and just copy and paste it into the text and ask questions. But we're going to have to use Python to actually make those API calls. So I am going to start really quickly right here. I've already gotten a head start here. We have created a new folder on my computer, and we created a Python virtual environment. I think the first step is actually to install OpenAI. And we're going to go with quick start. Go with the introduction. Nope. Okay. What we're going to have to do is install OpenAI, and I'm just going to go ahead. I don't know where it is in the documentation, but you're going to have to install all of this to be able to push an API call. Now, question answering is in beta. That's why we're testing it. You got to keep in mind there are limitations. You cannot just supply PDFs and Word documents that I would absolutely love. It seems like we are limited to what we can upload. So I'm going to be trying this out in the background, and I'm going to give my comments as I go. So I'll shut off my voice for a little bit. Okay, so we have the very basic foundation. Basically, what we've gone through is somewhere in the libraries, we made sure to install OpenAI with the pip command in Python, and we can start interacting with their API. Naturally, I'm hiding the secret key, my secret key from view, but I've thrown it into the secrets file. Now, the very first step we did was we created this puppies.json light file, JSON lines file. And this is just a series of texts to look at, to create the documents. Now, as I said, they don't accept Word documents, PDFs. You're going to need some sort of converter, and I'm not familiar with the JSON lines files. That is something I'm going to have to consider shortly afterwards, and maybe create a very basic converter, maybe just use someone else's converter. So we'll start with that. So we create the file and we get an ID. We should take a look here first at the files. We can upload a number of files, but there are limitations. Each file has a max size of, I think, 150 megabytes. It's not listed here, but overall, you can only have 1 gig worth of files, assuming you're not a large organization that's put aside deal with OpenAI. You got to keep the files relatively small, but the reality is if you're reducing it all to just plain text in these JSON lines files, I think 1 gig is a lot of content. So we're not so worried about that. You create 1, 2, 10, 50 of these JSON line files, and this is the basis of your knowledge. I think what I'm going to do is try and create a bunch of Wikipedia, take a bunch of Wikipedia entries and turn them into these JSON line files. We upload them, create a file, and then we get an ID number from them. Then we move on to actually creating an answer. We're going to ask a question, and in this example that they've given in the question and answering section, we have which puppy is happy. Now, what I find very disturbing, bit problematic, is the answer that has come back twice is puppy B is sad. That's not the answer we're looking for. Right now, we're looking for either puppy A is happy or puppy A as the answer. And that should be the answer that they're suggesting as well. Puppy A is happy. Sorry, answer is puppy A, period. That would have been fantastic. So the answer is not great, but this is a very contrived example. They've given one example question as well. I'm not sure what the purpose is, but it it helps the system understand how you want answers as a format if we start passing a couple examples to them. We get to choose the model, we get to choose the search model, very basic, but basically we throw in the file, we ask a question, and we print out the answer. And unfortunately, the answer isn't quite great. Okay, so the next section I'm going to do, the next piece of work is I'm going to find out what this JSON lines format is. And we are going to throw some text into OpenAI for storage. And I think I got to figure out how to delete files as well. And I can just do a search. In a moment. So we'll find out how to delete the puppies files. That's not great text, and we're going to find a way to actually put some useful data in there. Be right back. Hey everyone. We set up this Wikipedia JSON line files, and really all I've done is do exactly what we had structured in the puppies file. I copied a whole paragraph, meaning that you you could have longer text. It doesn't have to be single sentences or phrase like puppy A is happy. You can have a sizable chunk, and I'm sure I can add even longer text in here. I think that makes it really easy to do, actually. If you want to convert your PDF or Word document, you just spit it out in one long chain, get rid of all the new lines, get rid of the spacing, and throw it into this text piece. So I didn't do any of that formatting. I just copied pasted very manually, but you can imagine this is a really simple file to work with, especially with a plugin like JSON lines. But I'm avoiding that for now. It's not all that useful to me to figure out how to do this. What I wanted to do is see how the answer works. So you can see I have created the file, wikipedia.json lines. I've made sure to delete my older one, and I duplicated this file as well, so we'll delete that. Um, and we asked a question. In this case, I said, what is the official long title of the criminal code? And it said the criminal code bracket French. That is the wrong answer. It's very clearly here. Its official long title is An Act Respecting the Criminal Law. Not a great answer. Still kind of disappointing. I asked another earlier one as well. The question was, and I'm going to paraphrase because I don't remember exactly what it was, but it was, what are the three parts of the Parliament of Canada? And in this case, they spit out two, the monarch, the Senate. Those are correct answers, but of course, that's 2 out of 3. It should have been the monarch, the Senate, and the House of Commons. Disappointing so far, but we have used a cheaper model, I believe. Ada and Curie are not the most expensive models. So I'm gonna take a look and see which models we can use. Da Vinci seems to be the largest, but and if there's anyone from OpenAI, I don't know why there's no searches in your documentation. We gotta find the right models. I'm just gonna try and say Da Vinci here. And what is the other one? Jin. We use Da Vinci on both of them. Do remember our older text before? The bigger models are not necessarily better. They churn through more data. They've been trained more, but they're not necessarily always better. And I found some of the cheaper models to function just fine. But let's try this again. What is the official long title of the criminal code? And we'll just run it down here. Let's see if they get the right answer. An act respecting the criminal. That is, oh. I think over here the problem is I have max tokens to be used. So it might have been cut off, but if you take a look, that is a better answer. And I'm struggling to find the text here. Where did our answer go? I feel like I'm going blind. Okay, we'll just ignore that for now, but the answer got much, much, much closer, and let's try the other one here. And let's increase the amount of tokens. So I'll bump it up to 10. What is the official long title of the criminal code? What are the 3 parts of the Parliament of Canada? And we'll make that test again. Start debugging. Monarch, Senate, and the House of Commons. Perfect. So the model made a difference. Using Ada and Curie. Curie was not bad as a model, but the search model to actually find the answer was incorrect. Let's try something a little more challenging now. How many senators does the governor general summon and appoint? Okay. So, how many senators does the governor general summon and appoint? $105. Absolutely perfect here. This is getting much better. Let's see. We're gonna have to ask a question that's not quite as obvious. The House of Commons is dominant with Senate rarely opposing it. Well, I think the criminal code will have more interesting ones. Okay, let's change the wording a little bit. Let's not make it too easy. But most are part of the common law rather than statute. So I wanted to ask, where are criminal defenses usually held? Okay, so we're not using the word most, we're not using contains, we're calling it criminal defenses instead of defenses. So, where are criminal defenses normally? Let's go with held. That has different meanings, I suppose. That could be challenging even for a human, but I didn't want to use the word contains. In the criminal code, see, no, not really. Most are part of the common law rather than statute. So not really the criminal code. It contains some defenses, but not all of them. What other acts contain criminal laws? What other acts contain criminal laws? Oops, that's not what I wanted. Controlled Drugs and Substances Act, the Canada, and we can see it's reading off here. I didn't give it enough tokens to keep it running. But you can see that it got better with the model. It's not perfect, and I'm just wondering how well this will go through. In the back of my mind, I want to throw in a couple textbooks, basically. Throw in a couple textbooks, convert them from PDF, throw it into the JSON lines file, and basically have it do homework for me. Ask the question, see what it spits out as an answer, and paste it into my documents. Now, homework normally doesn't ask really basic questions like what is the official long title. It'll ask what is the criminal code for, and let's ask that. Let's use that as a final test. What is the criminal what is the purpose of the criminal code? And I'll give it 60 tokens to try and run it. To codify most criminal offenses and procedures in Canada. Beautiful answer. That works fantastic. Okay, so we've taken a look at OpenAI's question answering feature. I'm a little underwhelmed. I don't think it's ready for prime time, but I still think it could be very, very useful. For me, textbooks is one way of doing it. The other way is I wanted to throw contracts into the system and ask it questions. I think that might work a lot better. Usually, the questions you ask about a contract are very simple. When did it start? When did it end? Do we have this obligation? Textbooks, homework, usually a little more philosophical. What is the point of it? Argue this position, probably less suited for that. It turns out to be extremely simple. You just have to get over the fact that they're using this weird file system. So a bit of the work is going to be a conversion system. And we've seen that before as well with our text-to-speech from Kokui. They also don't just accept any sort of text. It comes through their own formatting. So I feel like a little down the line, I'm going to need to create something that transfers document, PDF, Word documents, PDF files, HTML files into plain text. But what's beautiful is if you just search docx to plain text converter, there are plenty online. So if you don't need to do a whole whack of them, customize it yourself, you just want one textbook or a handful of contracts, you can use a lot of these, copy and paste, do it manually exactly how I did it here. Throw in your file, get the text, manually spit it out over here, ask your questions. But I think this is really cool. I think I'm going to play around with this. And because it's done, we have all this through curl as well, or Node.js. I can build a nice little interface on the web for it. So we can use an we can use an HTML file, use jQuery maybe in the back end, maybe use curl, whatever it may be, and have an interface. We can say select between a couple models. We can type in the question. You don't have to look at the script every single time. The issue is throwing in this JSON lines file. So yeah, I'm thinking about next steps here and deciding whether it's worthwhile. I'm not going to waste any more of your time, but I'm just excited because I think I'm going to ask more questions and I'm going to throw in text that's more flowery, more different than Wikipedia entries. So maybe throw in a Harry Potter novel, something quite a bit longer, analyze the cost, ask more theoretical, more general, vague questions. Anyways, if you enjoyed this video, please give me a thumbs up, subscribe, whatever it may be. But see you guys next time. Thanks for watching.